what we do.
Hey everyone, welcome to Miss Nonetheless. I am Rachel.
And I'm Melissa, and we are sisters. And you guys, I just have to introduce you to someone that doesn't live here anymore, but she stopped by for a little bit. This is my daughter, Ella. Say hey.
Hi.
Isn't she beautiful?
If you're on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube.
If you're listening to us, you're like, I have no idea.
Exactly. She is beautiful. Take her word for it.
Say hi in here.
Inside and out.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ella.
So Ella is going to be 20 on Monday, and she is a nanny for 7 wonderful children, and she's really good at this job. But she had a break and came over. We have a lot of snow, and like kids are home from school today because of the snow, and we only live about 2 miles away from where she works. So she came over here to hang out and have lunch, but I shoved her in the basement because we're about to record. But I was like, wait, come back up and say hi.
Still want to be on
Shoved her in
an
the-
episode sometime.
Yeah, she wants to be on an episode sometime. We've mentioned you several times, so I wanted to introduce you.
Yes.
So,
I feel so special.
yeah. Well, you would know if you listened.
I've listened to
the
a
rule,
lot of them.
The rule is you have to listen to our podcast to be on the podcast.
Listen,
That is a
I
very
don't always have time.
fair rule. Oh, I don't always have time. She is busy. She works a
That
lot.
is true.
going on.
She does work 2 jobs. So,
Yeah.
all right, love you.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Okay, bye. I also have a bunch of kids home because everyone woke up not feeling well. Not everyone, but some. And
Yeah.
I also shoved them in their rooms. And I was like, you're not allowed to come out. I've given you water. I've given you food. I've let you use the bathroom.
I've given you bread and water. You're fine.
Sometimes I'll do it in my room, but then I have to get like a folding table, which is fine. I don't mind
Such
doing
a
that.
pain.
But Brighton uses a folding table in his room for Dungeons and Dragons. And so I would have to
Mhm.
go in and like move all his stuff. And I was like, you
Yeah,
know what?
no.
I'd rather make you stay in your room than me
Yeah.
move all your stuff. And then you be
Agreed.
fine. So
So just so you guys know the way we handle this when we have a bunch of kids at home when we're trying to record. So today my husband's home because his semis broke down. So he's home and he's not a quiet man. And then I have all because Ella's here right now. I have all 5 of my kids plus Ella brought a friend. So we have a lot of people. So I walked around and told everyone if we have to edit noise out of the background, because we don't do a lot of editing to our podcast. And by we, I mean Rachel, because she does all the work and I just get to enjoy this part of it.
and
She's
by not a
fantastic.
lot, I mean we barely edit anything out.
Yeah, we just let us we be we is what I
We
just said a
be-
minute ago before.
She literally did. She goes, we be we. I was like, that's not how
I
that
don't think
saying
that's how you
goes.
say that. But anyway, so we have to pay someone to edit things out. And so we tell our kids that they will have to owe us $35 each if they
Whoever
make us have to
interrupts
edit them out.
us. That's
And half my boys are like, I don't make any money. And I'm like, oh, don't worry. I have plenty of
I
chores
have
that would add up.
chores.
So anyways, hello. How are you guys? Like I said, we are in the middle of a lot of snow and it's beautiful here. Rachel, you said it's been chilly in Arizona lately.
Oh yeah, it's been in the 50s, which is so weird. But other than I just don't like the gloomy, like I don't like too many gloomy days,
Mhm.
but I don't mind I
Mhm.
don't mind 50s when the sun comes out because then I get to actually wear like winter clothes all day long.
Yeah.
We only get like
yeah,
maybe
I get that.
1 to 2 months of where it's actually cold enough to wear winter clothes all day long. So it's like today I
Mhm.
just put on long sleeve shirt and I was like, what am I thinking? I have to put a vest on. If I don't take advantage of every vestable day, it's like I'm not
It's a
even really
waste.
experiencing winter. So
I get that. I mean, I don't because I live where it's 4 seasons all the time, but I can imagine.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, today, friends, we are going to talk about lack of motivation when you have a lack of motivation. And I feel like this could come from having a lack of motivation, struggling with that could come from a lot of different avenues.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to do a great job of addressing all of them just because I think that there's just a lot of things that can lead to it.
Mhm.
I'll talk about the things that I've experienced.
Well, and I
Yes.
will say if you're like, well, I want to hear about it in this area, in this area, in this area, like let us know.
Mhm.
You can always record like a part 2.
Yes,
And
we
I
already
kind
have.
like for all of our topics.
Say
If
that
you're
again?
ever like, I want you to do deeper, or I really was hoping you talk about this, like we're always looking for ideas. So
Yep. We actually have a list of things that we will record a second or maybe even a third
Mhm.
because of you guys saying, I wish you'd go deeper, or I wish you would have
Mhm.
addressed this part of that. And, or we on our own have thought of things like, oh, we could have added this to it. So,
Mhm.
so I have an interesting personality because I am really motivated. I get a lot done. I have worked for myself for most of my adult life. I have homeschooled my kids. I love projects. So this is how I function really well is I do really well when I have something that I can do within like a week. It's the maintaining of things that I struggle way more with. Like, okay, doing the laundry every day, doing dishes every day, sweeping every day, like that I have to do every single flipping day. It's just going to be there again
These
tomorrow.
kids another day.
I know. So that's where I struggle with motivation. So when I'm in the middle of a project or something, I'm always motivated to keep at it and get it done, because you see it happening and there's going to be a beginning and an end.
You see the fruit like right before your eyes.
And it's not going to be destroyed tomorrow and have to like if you're painting a room, you're not gonna have to repaint it tomorrow because the paint sticks to the wall and it doesn't come off and whatever. So anyways, so over the years, I would struggle with motivation. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how I exactly want to word this. My biggest thing it was emotionally driven. My motivation would come and go based on my emotions. And what that would mean is that when my kids were little and they had been up all night in the middle of the night sick, so remember, my husband was an over-the-road trucker at the time, so he was only home on the weekends. And after the weekend, he was really getting caught up on sleep from working so many hours during the week. And so I couldn't really count on him a lot for things like middle of the night stuff. I would never count on him because it was dangerous for him to be up and then go and drive. And so when that would happen, many nights in a row, or my kids were just extra naughty, or I was missing Bill extra, like all the things that, that just can play into our emotions, I would be completely unmotivated to do anything for days. And I would get really hard on myself. I would feel really embarrassed. We used to live in a little house in the middle of town where people would often just stop by and say hi, because you could kind of see it from multiple different roads, and people would be like, "Oh, I saw you were home, so I'm gonna stop and say hi." And I would be humiliated if my house was a mess, even though I had 5 little kids and the house was very small. I don't know why I was so embarrassed, but I was. And most of it is probably because I knew that I could have stayed on top of it better had I just had more motivation. So
well, because you would struggle with being motivated with anything like healthy in your life. So you might sit on the couch and watch TV all day, but then you feel like humiliated when you're like, well, I sat on the couch and watched TV all day because I didn't do anything productive with my day.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so there's a couple things that I've learned throughout the years with this is it's actually okay to not be motivated every single day. Like, we don't need to be full force ready to go from the minute we get up to the minute we go to bed. Some people function really, really well like that. I feel like most people I know don't function really well like that. They need downtime.
Well, at some point you need rest, which we've talked about.
Exactly. Rest is 1,000% necessary to function. You see, everyone needs it a little bit different, but so a long time ago, what I started to learn about myself is that if I would be really productive, and of course we live in this world where we feel like we have to be a certain amount of productive in order to like be successful. Like, and I definitely held myself to some unspoken standard when my kids were younger. I've really gotten past that, where I have a lot more grace for myself. And so motivation, okay, so here's where I'm struggling with exactly where to go with motivation is because, yes, we don't want to just live lazy. We don't want to just live where we just let our feelings take over, but we also need to have grace to rest and to have low-key days. So what I started learning was that I realized that every week I needed a day where I had nothing on my calendar, where I had nothing expected for myself.
Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't necessarily on a Sunday, but yeah, I always allowed myself a day where I would rest and I would let myself watch movies or read books or not do my dishes until the next day or whatever. We didn't have a dishwasher when my kids were little, so that was like a never-ending project I had to do.
Oh my gosh, it's worse than laundry.
It was worse
because you can let your kids sleep in the same clothes and wear them for like 3 days, but like
you have to wash the dishes.
You have to wash the spaghetti plate. Like,
can't eat off the dirty dishes.
No.
Yeah. So I did do a lot of paper products when my kids were little, just for my sanity, and that was something I had to do at that time. And so anyways, I want to start by saying that I do think it's okay to have days where we take care of ourselves and rest, even on the regular. It helped me be more productive and motivated the rest of the week, is what I found, is if I just gave myself that day. But let's talk about when it really is like kind of affecting our life, when we're really struggling with, we have to maintain our house. We have to maintain our kids' schedules. We have to do things that are productive. And so, so there's a few things that I have found that help me especially because my emotions are what can cause me to feel unmotivated. So, or like, let's say I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling super motivated. I'm going to clean the kitchen and I'm going to wash the bathrooms. And then Bill calls in, we get in a fight, and then I just want to go to bed. Like, well, okay, Melissa, man up, like get through the fight and still clean your things. But I really struggled with that for a lot of years. Or when we struggled financially, if I would realize that we had a bill that was due that I forgot about, or we bounced a check because I thought I didn't balance our checkbook properly and we didn't have any money to put in our account. Like those things would take me down really fast. And so I got to a point where I didn't like that. I was sick of letting my emotions take over. So I have some practical things that I would start to do. And obviously, Rachel, motivation isn't necessarily your struggle. You're going to share kind of an opposite side of this, right? Okay. So Rachel isn't sharing a lot just because this isn't really something she has struggled a lot with. So one thing I learned to do is when I wake up in the morning, especially if I'm going through a season of struggling with motivation, I make myself get up right away. And even if sometimes that means I have to get out of my bedroom as fast as possible, which means I don't even take time to make my bed. And I come into my kitchen and I make breakfast for my kids, which is something I don't always do because they don't always want me to, but I've started to again. And it's amazing how getting out of my bedroom and doing something right away, suddenly I'm now cleaning my kitchen. And then suddenly I am sitting in my living room having my quiet time. And then suddenly I started a load of laundry and it's like, and so just making my list couldn't have been in the morning. On those mornings, my list can't be, these are all the things you're going to do.
Because that'll do you in.
It will. It'll make me feel like I might as well just stay in bed. But getting out of my room immediately. Also getting outside, even in the winter. Sometimes that just as simple as running my kids to school, like that rejuvenate, like getting out in fresh air.
Just when you feel overwhelmed, and you don't feel motivated, just do one thing.
Yes. One thing. Yeah. And so I'm just giving some examples of what that one thing can be.
Right. Yeah. And well, I've heard of people when you want to get your kids to clean up, you just set a timer for 5 minutes and put music on and go, whatever we can cleaned up in 5 minutes. Now that's never worked for me because I want it all cleaned up.
Yeah.
But then I started simplifying to the point where we could clean kind of everything up in 5 to 10 minutes. But I've also heard women say, that I do that for myself too. Just put one song on and whatever you can get done in that one song. Well, guess what? One song turns into 4 songs. You don't actually have to be motivated to do 4 songs worth of stuff. You just have to know
exactly
one song. Alexa, put on a song. And then get your stuff done, start it. And that creates this snowball effect.
It does without fail. And if it is, the one or two times now and then where that one thing doesn't turn into multiple things and I do end up resting more that day, I'm like, well, clearly I needed to rest because
and that's where grace comes in.
Exactly. Because I've learned about myself that doing one thing 99% of the time leads to the rest of my house. Suddenly I'm more productive that day than I even imagined because I didn't give myself any pressure to do anything. So,
but you're the kind of person, if you woke up and you were like, this is my to-do list, it'll overwhelm you and you won't, because you don't have the motivation to do those things. You're not the kind of person who's like, I'm motivated to clean my kitchen. I'm motivated to do my laundry. If you're not that kind of person, then you're like, I don't want to do any of those things.
Right.
So if you just know the things you need to do and you pick one, well, I'll just do that.
Yep. And like I said before, I am motivated to do things a lot of the time, but then and it has become way less of an issue, mostly because I've given myself grace to have rest days. Also because I have learned to just be like, just start with one thing. And that has been a game changer for me. I had another example of, lack of motivation can be a really big deal when we're struggling with depression. And, Rachel's looking everywhere. Are you seeing something or hearing something?
I feel like your heater kicked on or something because I hear it in my ears.
Mine?
Maybe it's my heater.
You don't know that sound. Mine did not kick on.
Okay. I was just looking at what is that noise coming from?
If you're watching on YouTube or if you're not watching on YouTube, Rachel suddenly was just looking all over the place. And I was like, what is happening?
It's what's happening in my ears? See, this is the kind of stuff we should edit out.
Yeah.
We don't, because we're like, we do we.
We do we. Gosh, that would be our new slogan. We do we.
I think it's my heat because now I'm getting hot.
Yes, that would make sense.
we have to have headphones in. So it's not like you hear everything normal.
No.
And when you all of a sudden hear a weird noise, you're like, what's happening in my ears?
Yeah. Well, and the reason I knew she couldn't hear my heat, even if it had kicked it, is because my dishwasher will turn on and she can't hear it. Or my dog will come through the room and she can't hear it because these do I don't know. Yeah, it's really
Noise
interesting.
cancel of some sort. So
Yeah. So anyways, so I'm not going to go into depression. We're not going to talk about depression today because that is obviously a whole big subject of its own. But I have dealt with depression. Rachel's dealt with depression, and I do know that making myself, unless if it is serious depression, where it's like, okay, I need people attending to me because like my life might be in danger, that kind of thing. If it is your run-of-the-mill depression, so to speak, I know it's not really a phrase.
just your Betty Crocker depression.
But a depression, because obviously I said we have dealt with it. But like, you know,
just your run of the mill. Man, you're getting like mom. She would totally say something like that.
I was just gonna say that's something our mom
We
would say.
laugh
and we would laugh really hard. So anyways, if it's your like seasonal depression, or just like, okay, I'm really just struggling to just kind of with my oomph in my step. Because obviously if it's dangerous, that's a whole nother thing that I'm not talking about. But really the one thing at a time has been a game changer during those seasons too, because my house might not be as clean as it is when I'm not struggling with depression, and that's okay. I've learned to have grace for myself. But I also do take a shower, and I do load the dishwasher or get my laundry at least dried. It might not get folded until I wear it.
Well, I think
in a basket.
Right. Becomes another drawer.
Yes.
I think something that helps too is if you have a list of 10 things you'd like to accomplish and you're struggling with motivation, maybe you're having your run-of-the-mill depression. Never gonna let you live that one down.
I was just gonna say I'm never
like it's cold outside. You just don't feel motivated, not because of anything extreme like Melissa's, saying here. It's just a little bit of lack of motivation. But it's always good to go, okay, I have 10 things that ideally I would get accomplished. What if I'm only going to do 25% of them? What are those? Okay. Is a shower a priority? Today is not a priority for me. So put it to the end of the line. But like doing my dishes is a priority. Is laundry? No, laundry is not a priority for me today. And letting go of the things, we talked about this with boundaries, letting go of the things that don't need to be done right now. The things that are going to cause you to be overwhelmed, those things, let them go. And that's what Melissa's talking about, the grace. But knowing like you don't have to be motivated to get a list of 10 things done, but you do have to get some things done. And that does help. And I know for me, like we're not talking about depression, but they really do go hand in hand. And for me, the only time I really struggle with motivation is when I'm going through depression. It's a huge game changer for me. And it took my sister a little while to figure that out, because I'd be like, I don't even want to do laundry. And she's like, Rachel, that's normal. I'm like, no, it's not normal for me. My laundry is overwhelming me. And she's like, yeah, welcome to like
everybody's laundry overwhelms.
No, you don't understand. It's a tell for me when my laundry is like so paralyzingly overwhelming. It's not that I love laundry, but if it's so paralyzingly overwhelming to me that I go back to bed instead of doing it, I know I have a problem. So that's when I lack motivation. And so for me, like I do the things that I'm like, okay, I don't want this depression to get deeper and deeper, worse or worse. So I force myself to do things like sleep with my curtains open. So when I wake up, the sun wakes me up and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get up and make my bed. It's always easier to make the bed when the light is out for whatever reason than when you're in a dark. And we had room darkening curtains for a long time. So it really was dark. And it's like, oh, we'll just.
I do that in my room too. I don't sleep with my curtains open, but because we have room darkening, and we have neighbors who can see it, and I don't want that, but I open them the minute I'm up because the light, I'm assuming that I'm getting up in the light. Obviously in Minnesota, a lot of times you're getting up in the dark, but
here too, I'm still getting up in the dark right now, but and then once the light is out, it's easier to go, oh, well, I guess I wouldn't mind putting my room together. And I know it's dumb, but for me, making my bed changes the trajectory of my entire day.
And it doesn't for me because my bed is upstairs in kind of the back corner of our house where I could not see for the rest of the day. Whereas Rachel's is like right kind of in her.
Yeah,
like,
but
right
it was the same way in my old house. And my bedroom was just like yours.
It seemed like you were up there a lot though, because your kids' bedrooms were up
we
there.
didn't have like a family room for a while. We only had a living room, and we never had a TV in our living room. And then we had a family room in our basement, but our bedroom was on the third floor. So our bedroom was big and we had a couch in there, and it became our family room. So then we ended up spending a lot of time as a family in there.
What I'm saying is obviously I appreciate what my room is, my bed is made, and when my bedroom is picked up, but it's my kitchen for me. If my kitchen is clean and put together, the rest of my day, and I also, this is something else I do when, especially if I'm struggling with motivation, is I put shoes on, even if I'm staying home. There's something about wearing shoes, whether it's, and it might be my slippers because they're Birkenstock slippers, so they're light shoes, but like in the winter. But there's something about, or maybe tennis shoes, obviously depending on what I'm wearing, but that has made me, I'm way more productive because I'm way less likely to like curl up on the couch when I have tennis shoes or boots on. Am I getting too far? I keep getting too far away from this. So that is something that helps with motivation if you're, and so I've heard other people say, yeah, me too.
Or for me, it's getting dressed. I can't spend a day in my pajamas unless I'm not feeling well, or I know it's like, even like a movie day, I sometimes just need to get dressed, like, to make me feel better.
Well, and I feel mentally grosser, but I also physically feel grosser. Like, even if I don't shower, but I put on clean clothes, I feel different than if I just stay in what I slept in.
You feel greasy by like 3 o'clock. I never really understood that.
No, it's like your bed sweat just stays on you and emphasizes throughout the day.
It's true. It's like you just took your dirty sleep with you.
Yes.
Emphasizes throughout the day. Well, and the thing about it is like, okay, so whether you have motivation all the time, being lazy and idle is unbiblical, right? Like it's not the way that God designed us. And so he did design us to be productive. And for every person, the level, like the standard we have for what feels productive is going to be different. And for some of us, we put too much emphasis on that. And that's not healthy. Like the pendulum can swing. But I know for me, like when I don't want to keep doing something, I don't want to keep eating healthier, I don't want to keep working out, I don't want to keep getting up and reading the Bible, I don't want to keep doing ministry or parenting or, all the important things. It's like, I remind myself that like, the Bible talks about how much fruit there will be when you work through something. Like Psalm 128 says, you will eat the fruit of your labor, blessings and prosperity will be yours. Although we might feel weary from doing hard and good work, like we will reap the fruits of our labor eventually. If getting up at 6 a.m. is your goal and you're exhausted the first month, like eventually it will become habitual. So it's like, you don't have to be motivated every day. I want to get up at 6, but if your long-term goal is I'm motivated for that to become a habit, then you have to do the work through the misery to get there.
That's actually what I was just going to say is that I really want to make it clear that I actually don't even love the word motivated because it really shouldn't play a part in our life. We have days that we need to rest and we have days where we have to get things done no matter what.
Right.
And learning how to do things, whether you feel like it or not, is a game changer. Because if we always are like, well, I just don't feel motivated to work my business, or I don't feel motivated to spend time with my kids, or I don't feel motivated to, there's like
have sex with my husband, literally everything.
Exactly. There's so many things that are really can hurt our relationships and ourselves if we let our feelings be the dictator. And I go back to that all the time, that feelings cannot dictate us in so many things. But I also really think that we kind of need to take motivation off the table and just say, okay, it doesn't matter if I feel like doing it. I know this is important. So what can I do? What is that one thing that I can do that will help me go in the right direction?
Right.
Because like Rachel, your motivation, I do like the word motivation for long-term things. Like I am motivated to have a healthier marriage. I am motivated to be a better mom. I am motivated to be, my battery is like almost dead. And my phone is my computer's charging and my battery, there we go. It got unplugged apparently, and it was not charging, and I'm going to get cut off here. So sorry for the distraction, but
then it's just going to be me.
Rachel can just finish what I was trying to say.
No, I totally know what you're saying. Like we don't need motivation. Motivation can be more like the goal. I'm motivated to have this different in my life.
Yep.
What do I need to do today, motivated or not, to get there? And
exactly.
I really like that. Because I think about like working out, and a lot of people who follow me on Instagram, they know like I've been working out very consistently for like 7 to 10 years. And I reached a place for a long time. Let me back up. For a long time, my motivation was I wanted to see a change in my body. And then I saw a change in my body, and then I wanted to keep that change in my body. And then I could no longer keep that change in my body. And then I kept working out, and I started gaining weight, and I kept working out, and I kept gaining weight. Now I'm like, my working out doesn't change my body anymore. Like, I'm not saying it never could, but at this point it has ceased to work, quote unquote, work for me.
Yep.
But what it gives me is
welcome to 40.
Yes, exactly. It gives me so much better focus and mental, like a mental mind, like a healthier mindset. And for me, working my body is a gift to my day, to my mind, to my energy levels. And so my motivation is to just feel the best that I can. And
Exactly.
I know that means that I need to work out as many days as I can, with understanding there's rest and stuff in there, but as many days as I can, because that makes me feel better. But my motivation that used to drive me every day, I just want to see a change, no longer exists. But my discipline didn't change because it's become so habitual in my life that I don't need to wake up and feel motivated to work out. Unless I actually feel sick or didn't get very much sleep, I just do it. And that's the habit that I've built. And I don't need daily motivation to make that happen. Sometimes I feel incredibly unmotivated, but that's when I think of like, well, the long-term goal is this makes me feel better overall. And if I miss a day, that's fine. But if I miss 4 or 5 days, also fine. But if I don't get back into it, my long-term goal ceases to exist. You know, it's like eventually it just becomes something I don't do anymore. And so it's like, it's just a reminder for me, less than being like, not even being motivated. I just need to be reminded of like, what am I working towards?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that if our goal of motivation, since we are using that word, is because like so when I had Ella, you guys just met her, she is going to be 20. I had a friend who had a daughter about 3 weeks after Ella was born. And it was very clear to me that this friend was like getting up in the morning with her daughter and like they were just kind of going all day. Well, my Ella was extremely colicky at night. So she would scream until the middle of the night. And so I'm a late night person, but I definitely don't prefer to be up until 2 a.m. with a screaming baby. That's not how I prefer to stay up late.
Nobody's cup of tea.
And so by the time I would find, not only was I exhausted because we went to bed late, but I was exhausted from bouncing a screaming baby around for hours, just trying everything I could to help her to be comfortable and okay. Plus, if you remember, Bill was a truck driver, so I didn't want him awake. So I was trying to stay, and we had a tiny house. So I was trying to keep her quiet away from him. And I was exhausted. And I just had to sleep. I was told, which I agree with this advice, but someone said, sleep when your baby sleeps. Well, Ella slept from like 2 a.m. until like 10 a.m. I mean, obviously she'd wake up to nurse, but like 10 or 11. And I would sleep with her because I was so exhausted. And I felt bad when I realized that my friend was getting up in the morning with her baby and I was sleeping till like 11 with Ella. And I started feeling like, oh, my pressure on myself, like, oh my gosh, I need to do what she's doing. And then I don't know, suddenly I realized, well, her baby sleeps at night. Like she just goes to bed and she wakes up. Like, and I was like, I can't have the motivation to do something based on what someone else is doing. Like, I think it's really important that
because now you're entering into a comparison game.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that can, or a pleasing game. Like if you're trying to, obviously do things to serve your spouse, that's wonderful. But if your spouse puts pressure on you to always have the house perfect, and that is the only reason you ever are trying to get the house perfect, that's going to be exhausting for you. And that's going to be hard to stay motivated in that. Anyways, like I said, this whole topic I feel like is very broad and wide and goes in a lot of directions. And I just think it's important for us to have grace for ourselves, but also maybe take daily motivation out of our vocabulary and look at it more, like Rachel said, long-term, and give yourself one thing to do a day towards that thing that you're struggling with on the days that you're struggling. And if nothing else, you got one thing done. Usually it ends up being more, but you at least get one thing done.
Exactly. No, I like that. So do we have a challenge for people today? I was thinking maybe the challenge could be taking, like, looking at your desire to be a motivated person, so to speak, and wonder, like, examine where are emotions in it, and where do emotions need to be taken out of it. That could be a challenge, or another challenge could be every day.
I just think the one,
don't feel motivated, pick one thing and
do one thing.
Does it lead to other things?
Yeah, because usually so I was talking to our sister-in-law who is starting to work out at the gym in the morning. And we were saying how the biggest challenge is just getting out of the house. When you're doing that, it's like, once you're out of the house, well, obviously you're going to get in your car and drive to the gym. When you get to the gym, you're not going to just sit there. You're going to do something. And so if we can find what is the one, like what like for me, getting out of my bedroom, that changes everything for me for the rest of my day. And so find Rachel opening her curtains or making her bed. Like, so there's not only starting with one thing, but we can eventually pinpoint, this one thing always changes my day. Like, so that's a really good thing.
What's your game changer?
Regularly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a little all over the place, I feel like, but kind of fun to talk about. I feel like my brain was everywhere and my computer was dying and I got all panicky.
Yeah, that's like, we'd have to restart it. And so it's like, okay, get that plugged in. I think
Yeah,
I finished your
yeah,
thought
so-
though. So
Good.
all right. Well, you guys,
All
thanks
right,
for
well,
joining us.
Yeah.
And
Thank you very much.
from you. And we hope you have a great week.
All right. Bye-bye.